Welcome to the Sports Watchdog radio show, hosted by Mason Kern. He keeps his nose to the ground to report on what's trending in professional and college sports, to inform, enlighten, and entertain. And now it's
the Sports Watchdog.
The Sports Watchdog, Mason Kern.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sports Watchdog radio show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 Phoenix. I'm Mason Kern here with you every Sunday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. Obviously, I'm certainly glad you decided to join me this morning, and as always, I do have some great stuff in my kennel. Today we're going to be talking to former NBA All-Star and two-time Defensive Player of the Year Mark Eaton, as well as former NFL linebacker Nick Greisen. And I'll also be covering some sports hot topics, and for you basketball-specific fans, interesting happenings on the hardwood. We skate on over to the ice now, and I'm sure for our NHL fans listening and for those who follow the sport, you guys saw the Nashville Predators' impressive comeback victory against the Edmonton Oilers this past Thursday. But I don't know if you guys know the true implications for that victory. So with the win, the Predators general manager David Poile became the most winningest general manager in regular season NHL history. He got his 1,320th victory in the regular season, and that does surpass the former number one for the most regular season wins in NHL history. So it's obviously an extremely impressive accomplishment. Poile has managed two franchises. He's the manager of the Predators now, but he managed the Washington Capitals before that. And he's been with the Predators a really long time, which is kind of rare for a general manager in hockey. You usually see some turnover there, but his career stats are pretty impressive. I mean, he's had 24 playoff berths in 33 seasons. He's conducted 295 total trades and has drafted 335 players across 34 drafts in his already storied career. And so that's obviously really impressive. Poile did rack up 594 wins with the Capitals before moving on to the Predators. And with the most recent win, he now has 726. But obviously, as he's still the general manager, though, that value is sure to increase. And he's the reigning NHL General Manager of the Year for a reason, and the 68-year-old is really just looking to keep on racking up those W's. We pivot on over to the NBA now. The Houston Rockets are honestly just going crazy. So the Rockets now maintain the best record in the NBA, and yes, you did hear me correctly. They have a better record than the Golden State Warriors. I know it's hard to believe, but they really do. And February was just such an incredible month for them. They've won 14 straight games, undefeated in the month of February, 14-0. And anyone who thought that Chris Paul and James Harden wouldn't work well together should really just bite their tongues, because they've just made each other so much better. It's pretty crazy. Harden was already an MVP candidate before this season, and then Chris Paul was already regarded as one of the best point guards in NBA history up to this point in his career. And now Harden's averaging 31 points per game. If he continues the track that he's on right now, he's almost a lock for MVP. And Chris Paul is putting up numbers that he really didn't in Los Angeles across his whole time. And I think this is the year that Chris Paul is finally going to make it out of the second round of the playoffs. He's obviously never done that before. That's kind of the stigma against him as one of the greatest point guards of all time. But with this Rockets team, I do see them making a strong push in this year's playoffs. Obviously, they're still going to be considered the underdog, even with a better record than the Warriors, just because of the Warriors' prominence in the Western Conference for the past few seasons. But I genuinely think the Rockets have a very good chance of making it all the way to the playoff final and then possibly winning the whole thing. If they can make it past the Golden State Warriors, like I said, that'll be their real true test. And then whoever comes out of the East in the final, that's going to be a really hard-fought series as well. Probably looking like Cleveland or Boston if they can get things back on track. But as always, hit me up on social media and let me know what you think about these and other trending sports topics at @sportswatchdog on Twitter and at @thesportswatchdog on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well. But alright guys, the Sports Watchdog radio show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060 will be right back after this short break.
This season, ensure your face looks its best with Nu Skin's Age LOC Luma Spa cleaning device. This dual-action skincare technology provides a superior skin-perfecting treatment while simultaneously providing deep cleansing benefits. It leaves skin smoother and softer after just one use, delivering 7 skin benefits that increase over time. Use it to gently cleanse away dirt, oil, makeup, pollutants, and toxins that wreak havoc on skin. Find Age LOC Luma Spa at newskin.com.
Hey there, you're listening to the Sports Watchdog radio show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. I'm your host Mason Kern, and joining us now is an exciting guest, former NBA All-Star center Mark Eaton. The Utah Jazz took a chance on Mark, who was an untested prospect coming out of UCLA, selecting him as the 72nd pick in the 4th round of the 1982 NBA draft. His 7'4", 290-pound stature surely played a role in that chance being taken. And that bet paid off, as Mark ultimately became one of the most defensively prominent players in NBA history. He still currently holds the record for blocks in a season with 456, and also career block averages with 3.5 per game. His defensive prowess led to an All-Star berth in 1989 and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards in 1985 and 1989 respectively. Mark's entire NBA career was spent with the Jazz. Throughout 875 games, he scored 5,216 points, grabbed 6,939 rebounds, and blocked 3,064 shots. At the time of his retirement, he ranked second all-time in league history for total block shots, only behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's career total of 3,189. But Abdul-Jabbar played 1,560 games compared to Mark's 875. And since his retirement, Mark has become a corporate speaker and published author, and he's here to catch us up on his post-NBA endeavors, his book, and also share some insights about the NBA. Hey Mark, welcome to the Sports Watchdog radio show. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks, Mason. It's great to be on your show today.
Yeah, thank you again so much for coming on, like I said. So, first off, Mark, I know, like I said, you've become a prolific speaker since your NBA days. So, what exactly is your speaking platform, and who is the typical audience?
Well, I've spent the last 9 or 10 years doing mostly corporate motivational speaking on teamwork. I do a program called The 4 Commitments of a Winning Team, and I travel around the country, reach a wide variety of industries and people, and the platform has really been one of helping people get rid of internal competition and sharing with them my crazy story of how I became a basketball player starting out as a 21-year-old auto mechanic in Southern California.
Yeah, obviously a really cool story there, the kind of rise and then your rise to success in the NBA. And that, so, Mark, if you were to boil it all down, what would you say your main message is, and how does it help those in business really?
Well, my main message is really looking at teamwork from the inside out. So I have the unique advantage of playing team at the highest level. And a lot of people in business use the term teamwork all the time. You know, we're a team, we're a team, we're a team.
Definitely.
But don't really understand it at the level that I do and from the experiences I've had. And so I share that in 4 distinct points with the audience, and sharing what worked for me and how I became a successful player as well as a successful team member, and how our team ended up winning and having a run of 20 consecutive playoff appearances based on these 4 commitments, and how they are going to apply to your business.
And so you mentioned those 4 commitments now, and I know that's the title of the book you authored, the 4 Commitments of a Winning Team. So tell us more about what we're going to gain from reading this book, and then why it's different from other leadership and success books out there.
Well, I think what is unique about my message is this is something I lived. It's not something I studied or read about. This is something I actually did. And so these commitments are distinct traits and skills and things that you can use immediately to improve your life and your business and take yourself to the next level. So I focus on things like, how important it is to really understand and know your role on the team, and how critical that is to only your success and your team's success, and as well as your commitment to the people around you. The more you make other people look good, the better you're going to look to them, and the more your customers are going to appreciate that as well. And so the basic premise is there's just 4 simple steps that you can utilize to, I think, dramatically improve things at your company, in your business, and your personal life.
Well, you mentioned role on a team, and I would definitely say that's very important, just knowing your role within a team, because it's obviously no I in team. But now, Mark, shifting to your NBA career, obviously the transition must have been pretty tough from your college years, then immediately going to the NBA, and obviously change is never easy as it is. So how did you adjust so quickly and then so well, really?
Well, it was a challenge coming out of college because I sat at the end of the bench and I didn't play very much. And, the Utah Jazz took a chance on me. My junior college coach and I actually cold called NBA teams looking for a tryout.
Wow.
And the Jazz were somewhat interested, and we sent them a very brief highlight tape of my very brief college career. And they ended up drafting me in the 4th round, like you mentioned. When I came to the Jazz, they were a bad team in a bad market. I mean, we used to give away posters of other teams' players to get people to come to the arena, right? And so Frank Layden, who was the coach and general manager, gave me a chance. He said, look, if you come to camp early, work with our coaches, get on our weight training program, get on our running program, he goes, I'll give you a chance for 1 year, and we'll just see what happens. And so he did, and I did my part. I got here early. I worked with the coaches. I thought I was in pretty good shape when I showed up. Well, I wasn't even close. And so I did the little things that he had asked me to do, and by the middle of the season, I was the starting center of the NBA. So it took a lot of extra work and time, but he was willing to give me a chance to kind of, get my feet wet out there, and, I improved, and so did the team.
I think it's all about getting that chance, like you said. I mean, you put in the hard work, and you got the results, and the results showed. So that's definitely something that our listeners can take with stride. And with your large frame, obviously, even in the pro basketball circuit, how were you able to kind of utilize that to your advantage? Because obviously, I'm sure you were much bigger than some of the other players you were going head-to-head against.
Well, I learned a very key lesson when I was in college, and that the summer between my junior and senior year, we used to play pickup games at the men's gym at UCLA, and I was just trying to compete out there, and I'm trying to keep up with these much faster, smaller players, and trying to figure out where my spot is out there on the floor. And I was standing on the sidelines one day, and Wilt Chamberlain used to come down and work out with us even after he retired from the NBA. And he just grabbed me on the shoulder, and he said, look, why are you trying to chase these little guys up and down the court? He said, come with me. And he put me right in front of the basket. And he said, you see this basket? He said, just stop players from getting there. Make them miss their shot. Collect the rebound. Throw it up to the guard and let them go down the other end and score it. And you just cruise up to half court and kind of see what's going on. And it was this very light bulb type moment for me where I understood what my role was out on the floor. And even though I didn't play that much the next year at UCLA, I remembered that lesson. And when I got to the NBA, I said, you know what, I can do one thing well. I can block shots and play defense. Let me just focus on that, and I'll build from there. Well, Frank Layden with the Jazz was changing the culture of the team at that point from a kind of up-tempo run-and-gun style to more one that was defensively oriented and running an opportunity. And I fit perfectly into that. He parked me under in the basket, under the basket there in the key. And we played a very aggressive, switching, shifting defense. And I had some great players on my team that could run the floor, like Adrian Dantley and Ricky Green, and I just got rebounds and threw the ball to them. And Darrell Griffith, and they went down the other end and scored it. And we ended up kind of getting ourselves out of the cellar, and in the next year, winning the division for the first time in team history, making the playoffs for the first time in team history, and we had 4 individual statistical leaders in the NBA, which has not been done since.
Yeah, that's truly incredible. And I mean, we talk about the role. I think figuring out your role from a legend like Wilt Chamberlain must have been pretty cool. But obviously now the game has changed. I mean, we're talking about back in the 80s from being a kind of a big man centers league where the league was dominated by centers, frankly, and now we see people in the NBA who are just pulling up from half court from the logo. It seems like a bunch of guard 3-point shooters. So do you think this change has been beneficial or detrimental to basketball and to the NBA as a whole?
Oh, I think it's been very, very beneficial. You just saw the influx of international players kind of starting in the late 80s and continuing on till today, and it's a much more diverse base of players to draw from around the world with unique skills, and the game has continued to change and evolve as well. And so you now see guys like a Dirk Nowitzki who's 7 foot that can shoot it out on the floor.
Yeah, crazy.
And Kevin Durant who's like a prototypical basketball player now can do everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's been great for the game, and it's the popularity of the game has never been greater, and it continues to improve. And you look at the values of a lot of the NBA franchises now. I mean, they've just gone up dramatically in the last 6-7 years. So, like I was reading an article the other day about the Warriors. I think started out at $500 million or a little less than that. Maybe I can't remember exactly what the number was, but now through digital marketing and everything else, their value is up to $3 billion. And that's just remarkable. And that's just since 2010. So I think it's obviously working.
I mean, yeah, of course, the Warriors, because they've gotten so good so fast, it seems like, I'm sure their value has skyrocketed for sure. And we talk about, like I said earlier, like you said earlier, you kind of got that key advice from Wilt Chamberlain, so I'm sure that was quite a moment that stood out. But how was it going up against some of the greatest centers of all time? We talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we talk about some of these other players. So do you have any other particular moments that stand out?
Well, I played in a great era. I came into the NBA with guys like Bob Lanier and Kareem and Artis Gilmore, and then we moved into Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and probably my biggest nemesis, Hakeem Olajuwon. All those guys were just such great players. And just imagine going one night next to the next to the next. Like, it's okay, you got Hakeem tonight. Tomorrow we got Patrick Ewing. Next day we got Kareem. Day after that, got David Robinson. It was a different game for sure, and the team relied on me a lot to stop those guys. And so it was a great era, and I think probably of all of them, Hakeem was the biggest challenge because he came from a soccer background, so he had very quick feet as a center. In fact, I believe one year, it was around the late 80s, he led the NBA in both block shots and steals as a 5-man, which was just remarkable back then. And so we had some great rivalries and a lot of fun, and it was just a great era to have been a part of the NBA.
I'm sure. I mean, myself, looking back at all the highlights from that era, it's kind of crazy to see, one, just how much the game has changed to now, but two, just how incredible the players were back then, and to have been a part of that, I'm sure that was really cool looking back. And well, Mark, thank you so much for all of that wisdom and insight. It's obviously really helpful. Where can fans go to get more information about you, your book, and all your other endeavors?
You can go to my website, 7foot4.com. You can find the book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, etc. And it comes out on April 3rd. Very excited about that. But the best place to find most of the information would be my website, 7foot4.com.
I like that. Super easy to remember, 7foot4.com for everyone who missed that the first time. But all right, everyone, the Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, music lovers, need a truly professional quality headset? Check out Voco Pro's HB200 professional monitoring headphones, which give music creators, DJs, and KJs a clear and accurate idea of the overall mix. The closed and comfortable insulated ear pads let you hear the mix clearly by reducing outside sound interference and background noise, while an extra cable with volume dial provides convenient control. Find them online at vocopro.com. That's VOCOPRO.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show here on NBC Sports Radio, AM 1060. I'm your host, Mason Kern. And with us on the line now is former NFL linebacker turned pro sports insurance and risk specialist and financial security solutions expert Nick Greisen, who now serves as Director of Business Development for a company called PFS, Specialty Risk Underwriters. Nick graduated from the University of Wisconsin, where he received first-team All-Big Ten honors, also being selected as team captain as well. He was then picked up in the 5th round of the 2002 NFL Draft by the New York Giants, and throughout his 8-year NFL career, he also played as an inside linebacker for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Baltimore Ravens, and Denver Broncos. Since earning his MBA and joining PFS after leaving the NFL, Nick has helped provide financial security for professional athletes, coaches, teams, and leagues, leveraging his extensive experience to build insurance risk solutions that protect the financial wellness of his clients. So with that, Nick is here to share more about his professional experiences both on and off the football field. Hey, Nick, welcome to the Sports Watchdog Radio Show.
Oh, appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today, like I said before. So first, let me kind of just ask you about your own NFL football career. What are some of your main takeaways and kind of highlights from that period of your life?
Well, I think I look at it as, it was just the greatest time of my life. Being able to play a sport that, growing up as a young individual, you always had dreamed about being able to play in the NFL and make it to the NFL, and it truly was amazing. But at the same time, I truly learned that it's very much a business. As I got towards the end of my career, you truly learn that, listen, it's not only a game, but it's also very much so a business. And that was something that, to me in my career, just kind of dampened some of the feel of playing in the NFL was that business aspect, because it somewhat took away some of the love of the game towards the end of my career.
And you talk about how that kind of perception of instead of it just being a sport, it's a business as well, and I definitely agree. I think it is. Thinking back on it now, then, do you think that your playing days ultimately kind of connected you with your current company, PFS, or did other roads lead you to them? And what exactly does PFS do?
Yeah, so how my career ended was actually I was with the Broncos, and I was a street free agent actually after I had been released with the Ravens, and the Broncos picked me up and they offered me a contract that was a 1-year minimum deal with a split in the contract. And what a split would mean is if I were to get injured and placed on injured reserve, I would lose about 50% of my salary. So I really didn't want to do that and take that deal. But then again, that was the only deal that was on the table. So instead of just sitting home on Sundays, you sign the contract and you try to obviously not get injured. But actually, the third day of training camp, I ended up blowing my knee out. Oof. And not only did I get placed on injured reserve and lose about 50% of my salary, it also ended my career. And then, from that time, I went back and got my MBA at Northwestern, and just through a connection, ended up connecting with my now boss and president of PFS. And what we do is we do all the disability insurance for professional athletes, entertainers, and high net worth individuals. And I just thought there was a great space to be able to still be a part of the sport in the NFL, and then also be able to help and educate and give back to these guys that are coming up underneath where I was. And I saw that there was such a need for insurance, particularly in a split contract, where I ended up losing almost $350,000 because of the fact that I had to take this contract. And there was no way that I could have protected it. And actually, after going and doing some research on it, I found that in 2015, over $27 million was left on the table by guys in split contracts. So I thought that here's a great way to be able to step into PFS and help current NFL players protect their interests.
Now, that's a lot of money, Nick. I mean, 2015 alone, I'm sure that number might have even risen by now, but you talk about your own split contract and kind of how that worked. What else would you say kind of contributes to all the money that players are leaving on the table? Would you say roster bonuses and other things like that as well?
Yeah, so there's two different things that are going on where in 2016, split contracts, actually, you were right, did go up. They were around a little over $28 million that players lost in 2016 with split contracts. But then there's what we call a per game roster bonus that teams are putting in players' contracts to help them save money. How it works is if a player is not on the active 46-man roster, so on game day there's a total of 53 guys that make the active roster, but only 46 will actually dress for the game. So you're going to have 7 guys that won't be dressed, either because of skill and or injury. Well, if you were to have a per game roster bonus, say it's $1.6 million, and you miss 3 weeks, you lose 3/16 of your $1.6 million roster bonus. So you would lose $300,000 of your roster bonus. Well, in 2016, out of 222 contracts that had this language in it, over $29 million in salary was left on the field by players. So between $28 million in split contracts and $29 million in roster bonuses, you're almost at $60 million that players are leaving on the table every single year, and it's only going to go up because this year I don't have the final numbers, but there was 290 contracts that had this language of the per game roster bonus in it. So I would assume that it'll be over the $30 million mark.
Now, Nick, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit now to this past NFL season. I kind of want to get your insight. What did you make of all of the controversy and ratings issues that the league experienced this year, and what do you think that they should do to kind of recover from that ratings loss?
Oh gosh, I mean, I think there's so many different points of emphasis of where potentially there's ratings loss. I think not everything is about the NFL anymore, and that makes it difficult. I mean, you've got now NFL and football games that you can watch at any time. You've got Thursday games, and obviously all college football on Saturdays, and then you've got games on Sundays and then games on Mondays. So I think that it's too drawn out. And I mean, we're all busy. People are busy. People have many things going on, and I can't tell you the last time I was able to actually sit down and watch a full game. I've got 2 kids, and
definitely.
This is what I do for a living, and it's still difficult to get that done. I think that they just continue to stay their course, and it'll work itself out. I really don't have an answer. I wish I did. That would be eye-opening. I would probably call the commissioner myself and say, "Hey, I got a great idea for you."
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge source of controversy this year. So, well, Nick, that was all great information, insight. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. So where can our listeners go to get more info?
Yeah, so they can go online to our website, pfsins.com, for all information in terms of all the different policies that we offer, and then any kind of contact information that they need to get in touch with me and or anyone within our office.
All right, everyone. The Sports Watchdog Radio Show on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060. We'll be right back after this short break.
If you're safety-minded or want to protect your loved ones, try Revelar Instinct, a stylish, discreet personal safety accessory that can be clipped to your keys, bags, or clothes. It connects through your smartphone to help keep users safe when out for a walk, run, or a night on the town. A discreet one-touch alarm button alerts trusted contacts and sends your live location information. Learn more at Revelar.com.
You ready to hoop it up?
This is Happenings on the Hardwood.
Now, as always, at the end of the Sports Watchdog Radio Show here on NBC Sports Radio AM 1060, we're going to outlet over to the hardwood for some hoops talk. So it's truly been a wild week of college basketball, to say the least. So to start the week, Virginia remained in the top spot of the AP Top 25 poll for the 3rd straight week, while Michigan State took number 2, and Xavier rounded out the podium in the 3rd slot. So to start off the craziness, Georgia lost one of its top recruits in 5-star point guard Ashton Haggins, who is ranked as the 3rd best point guard in the class of 2019. And that's really a big loss for Georgia, who already didn't have one of the better recruiting classes. It's really unknown why Ashton decided to decommit from the program, but that is a huge loss for Georgia. And then unranked Virginia Tech upset number 5 Duke on a wild tip-in off an air ball with 4.1 seconds left. Virginia Tech guard shot it on the left wing, airballed it, but no one boxed out from Duke, and it was just a simple tip-in, making it seem like the airball was intentional. But so Duke was handed that loss, and then that gave the Hokies their 3rd straight win against an AP Top 5 opponent for the first time since the 2006-07 season. And then Arizona State University continued its skid, losing to both the Oregon schools in Pac-12 play. But they did get a redeeming victory against Cal, 84-53, so they're back on track. And then head coach Bobby Hurley was fined $10,000 for berating officials in those 2 losses. Obviously, Hurley is one of the more outspoken coaches in college basketball, and he did get fined for his antics. But things got really interesting midweek as Kansas clinched the Big 12 title. Number 20 West Virginia beat number 12 Texas Tech 84-74. NIT reportedly is going to extend the 3-point line and kind of experiment with a wider lane in their tournament. Sharif O'Neal decommitted from the University of Arizona amid NCAA corruption scandal, and then he committed to UCLA, so Sharif O'Neal is now going to be a Bruin. And then unranked Miami defeated number 9 North Carolina on a buzzer beater. I mean, there's so much going on in the NCAA. But one of the main stories this week was the NCAA fell further into its corruption scandal as reports revealed a multitude of current and former players who have been paid to play for their schools. And this got a lot of people talking, from the NBA to the commissioner, to NCAA officials, to just almost everyone across basketball talking about this. And after that, Xavier clinched the Big East title. Sean Miller's job remains in question with U of A. Alonzo Trier was actually declared eligible to play against Stanford despite all of the doping allegations. Rutgers ended up upsetting Indiana in their tournament. And then Virginia, at the end of this week, escaped a Louisville upset with 5 points in under 1 second. With 0.9 seconds, they were down by 4, and Virginia somehow pulled off the victory, fouled on a three-pointer, inbound violation by Louisville, chuck up a three, game. That's right, game. 5 points in under a second. That's how you do it. That's why Virginia's number 1. And, I mean, it's officially March, guys. I don't know what else to say. It's March. It's March Madness. Grab your popcorn, pull up a chair, and just admire everything that is college basketball. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Anybody wanting to connect with me, the Sports Watchdog, on Twitter can do so at @SportsWatchdog, and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as well at The Sports Watchdog. So until next time, keep your eye on the ball.
The Sports Watchdog.
The Sports Watchdog Ace and Kern.